Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. This is WireDogSec and I'm back with another video for you guys. Today's video, we're going to continue on with the pre-security learning path, and apparently this room here is a part of the complete beginner path as well, these Windows Fundamentals rooms. So if you see that up here, remember we're still doing the pre-security. We're going to wrap it up with the rest of these Windows Fundamentals rooms. Now, without further ado, let's go ahead and dive in. Task 1, Introduction to Windows. The Windows operating system, OS, is complex product with many system files, utilities, settings, features, etc. This module will attempt to provide a general overview of just a handful of what makes up the Windows OS, navigating the user interface, make changes to the system, etc. The content is aimed at those who wish to understand and use the Windows OS on a more comfortable level. Launch attached virtual machine. The virtual machine should open within your browser. I already have it open here. You can also RDP into it, which is remote desktop into it, using those credentials right there. And I'm just going to head click continue here to task number 2, Windows editions. The Windows operating system has a long history dating back to 1985, and currently it is the dominant operating system in both home use and corporate networks. Because of this, Windows has always been targeted by hackers and malware writers. Windows XP was a popular version of Windows and had a long-running. Microsoft announced Windows Vista, which was a complete overhaul of the Windows operating system. Windows Vista was garbage, by the way. There were many issues with Windows Vista. It wasn't received well by Windows users, and it was quickly phased out. That's exactly right. Windows XP was around for a long time, right? Then Windows 7 came out and took over that pretty much. When Microsoft announced the end-of-life date for Windows XP, many customers panicked. Corporations, hospitals, etc., scrambled and tested the next viable Windows version, which was Windows 7, against many other hardware and devices. The vendors had to work against the clock to ensure their products worked with Windows 7 for their customers. If they couldn't, their customers had to break their agreement and find another vendor that upgraded their products to work with Windows 7. It was a nightmare for many, and Microsoft took note of it. Windows 7, as quickly as it was released after, was marked with an end of support date. Windows 8.x came and left, and it was short-lived like Vista. Yep, Windows 8 was crap as well. And then arrived Windows 10, which is the current Windows operating system version for desktop computers. Windows 10 comes in two flavors, Home and Pro. You can read the difference between the Home and Pro version here, so be sure to check that out if you're not familiar with it. Usually in a corporate environment, you're going to be working with Windows Pro or Enterprise editions. Even though we didn't talk about servers, the current version of the Windows operating system for servers is Windows Server 2019. As you can see, this is a bit dated. The latest version of Windows Server is 2022 as of, or to my knowledge. Many critics like to bash on Microsoft, but they have made long strides to improve the usability and security with each new version of Windows. The Windows edition for the attached VM is Windows Server 2019 standard, as seen in System Information. As of June 2021, Microsoft announced the retirement dates for Windows 10 here. Microsoft will continue to support at least one 10 semi-annual until October 14, 2025. As of October 5th, 2021, Windows 11 is the current Windows operating system for end users. Read more about Windows 11 here, so be sure to familiarize yourself with that. So what encryption can you enable on Pro that you can't enable in Home? And I believe that is going to be BitLocker. There you go. Now let's continue on with task number 3 here, talking about the GUI. The Windows desktop, aka the graphical user interface, or GUI in short, is the screen that welcomes you once you log into a Windows 10 machine. Traditionally, you need to pass the login screen first. The login screen is where you need to enter valid account credentials, usually a username and password, or of a pre-existing Windows account on that particular system, or in the Active Directory environment if it's a domain name or joined machine. The screenshot is an example of a typical Windows desktop. Each component that makes up the GUI is explained briefly below. You got the desktop here, which is the background. You got the start menu right here, and you got the search box here. I don't think Cortana is even used anymore today. 4 is the task view, which is this little icon here. Right, you can see it right there as well. It's a little bit bigger. Task number 5 is the taskbar down here. Task number 6 is the toolbar right there. Let's talk about this here apparently. So there you go. And then the 7 is the notification area down here where you can see like the time and date and stuff like that. The desktop. The desktop is where you will have shortcuts to programs, folders, files, etc. These icons will either be well organized in folders, sorted alphabetically, or scattered randomly with no specific organization on the desktop. In either case, these items can typically be placed on the desktop for quick access. The look and feel of the desktop can be changed to suit your liking. By right-clicking anywhere on the desktop, a context menu will appear. This menu will allow you to change the sizes of the desktop icons specify how you want to arrange them, copy paste items to the desktop, and create new items, such as a folder shortcut or a text document, right? So right-click here, and it brings up this little sub-menu. Under display settings, you can make changes to the screen's resolution and orientation. In case you have multiple computer screens, you can make configurations to multiple screens set up here. And there's an example right there. All right. You can go down here and do it this way. I believe it's in settings somewhere. All right. I mean, you can just type it in here. Let's see here. Display. There you go. Display settings. There you go. And let's see here. Note in remote desktop section. Some of the display settings will be disabled. All right. You can go personalized, change the wallpaper if you want to. And it just goes in. You can go over, look at whatever wallpapers you want. So you can go ahead and try this out yourself. I'm just going to continue on here. The start menu. In previous versions of Windows, the word start was visible at the bottom left corner of the desktop GUI. In modern versions of Windows, such as Windows 10, the word start doesn't appear anymore, but rather a Windows logo is shown instead. Even though the look of the start menu has changed, its overall purpose is the same. The start menu provides access to all the apps/programs, files, utilities, tools, etc., that are most useful. Clicking on the Windows logo in the start menu will open. The start menu is broken up into sections. See below here. All right, so you can go ahead and try that out yourself. All right, go ahead and click it and look around here. And let's talk about number one here, which is I like to call the hamburger icon, right? This section of the start menu provides quick shortcuts to actions that you can perform with your account or login session, such as making changes to your user account, lock your screen, or signing out of your account. Other shortcuts specific to your account are your documents, document icon, folder, pictures, lastly gear, cog icon will take you to settings, power icon, allow you to disconnect from remote desktop session, shut down the computer, restart the computer. Any below image, you can see each of the icons present. To expand the section, click on the icon that resembles a hamburger at the top, right, which I just said. So there you go. And let's see here. This section, number two, recently added programs, apps at the top, and all the installed apps programs that are configured to appear in the start menu. In this section, you'll also see the apps/programs will be listed in alphabetical order. Each letter will have its own section. See below. All right. And let's see here. All right, there we go here. Okay, let's see. In the above image, the first box is where the recently added programs, apps will appear. The second box is where the installed apps programs will appear. In your VM, Google Chrome will not show up as a recently added program anymore. If you have a long list of installed apps programs, you can jump to a particular section in the list by clicking on the letter of the headings in the grid see below. All right, that's good to know. So as the white letters match the letter headings, the right side of the start menu, so you'll find icons, specific apps, programs, or utilities. These icons are known as tiles. Some tiles are added to this section by default. If you right click on any of these tiles, you guessed it, the menu will appear. You can do various different actions here. As you can see there, they have them listed out. So right click here, and there you go. See more stuff here. Apps/programs can be added to the start menu section by right-clicking the app/program and selecting pin to start menu. All right, so you can go here and all right, let's just pin this PowerShell. Oh, it's already pinned, so you can just unpin it here. And if you go down here, right there, and you can repin it. Pin the start. There you go. Let's see here. The task bar. Some of the components are enabled and visible by default. The toolbar number 6, for example, was enabled for demonstration purposes. If you'd like to, or like me, and want to disable some of these components, you can right-click on the taskbar to bring up the context. All right, so let's go ahead and do that here. Oops, I clicked the wrong thing. There we go. So you can go here and mess around with stuff here, play around with it if you want to, taskbar settings, stuff like that. There you go. Just continue on here. Any apps slash programs, folders, files, etc. you can open start will appear in the task bar. All right. You can also pin these to the taskbar too. So see, pin a taskbar. Now it's down there. Hovering over the icon will provide a preview thumbnail along with a tooltip. This tooltip is handy if you have many apps, programs open, such as Google Chrome, and you wish to find which instance of Google Chrome is the one you need to bring to focus. When you close any of these items, they will disappear from the taskbar unless you explicitly pinned it to the taskbar. The notification area. The notification area, which is typically located at the bottom right of the window screen, is where the date, time are displayed. Other icons possibly visible in this area. You get the volume icon, network, wireless icon, to name a few. Icons can be either added or removed from the notification area in the taskbar settings. All right, so go ahead and try to play around with this here. Let's continue on. Here are Microsoft's brief documents for the start menu notification area. Tip, you can right-click any folder, file, app, program, or icon to view more information or perform actions clicked on them, right? So you can do this, you can do all kinds of stuff. I'm sure that's what they're talking about here. And let's see. Which selection will hide, disable the search box? Which selection will hide, disable the task view button? Besides clock and network, what other icon is visible in the notification area? All right, so be sure to answer these questions and then come back to the video and we will continue on. Hey everybody, just a quick little blurb here. As you can see here, most people that view my channel are not subscribers. If you're new here, please consider subscribing to the channel. If you're enjoying the video, please consider hitting the like button. It helps get me in the algorithm, helps spread the good word out there, helps bring more people and increase our glorious community here. All right, I'm all about helping out others. I know what it's like to come up in cybersecurity or even try to get into cybersecurity and not knowing where to look. I'm just having this channel up so I can help out other people. All right, that's all I got. All right, hopefully you were answering these questions. Now let's go ahead and find these real quick. The first question was, which selection will hide slash disable the search box? Well, right click in the taskbar below here and let's take a look. You go to the search over here and it says hidden. So you can click that and now notice how it's gone. And you go back in here, same thing, and it should bring it back. Oop, yeah, show icon. So there you go. The next one says, which selection will hide slash disable the task view button? You go back in here again and it says show task view button. Just click it. See, now it's gone. Go back in and it's there. Last one here says, besides the clock and network, what other icon is visible in the notification area? Notification area is down here in the bottom right. See, no new notifications. If you right click that, it should bring up a menu. It should be the action center, right? As soon as you right click on it, if I can do it here. Let's see, there we go, open action center. There you go. Now let's continue on to task number 4. And we're going to talk about the file system. The file system used in modern versions of Windows is the New Technology File System, or NTFS for short. Before NTFS, there was FAT16 and FAT32 file allocation table, and HPFS, High Performance File System. You still see FAT partitions in use today. For example, you typically see FAT partitions in USB devices, micro SD cards, etc., but traditionally not on personal Windows computers / laptops or Windows servers. NTFS is known as Journaling File System. In case of a failure, the file system can automatically repair the folder / files on disk using information stored in a log file. This function is not possible with FAT. NTFS addresses many of the limitations of the previous file system, such as support files larger than 4 gigabytes, set specific permissions on folders and files, folder and file compression, encryption file system, or EFS. If you're running Windows, what is the file system your Windows installation is using? You can check the properties, right-click on the drive your operating system is installed on, typically the C drive. So if you go ahead and do that, go ahead and open up the File Explorer here, and you go down to this PC, and you go to where it says local disk, and you can go to properties here, right? And you can go through and see that it says file system NTFS. You can read Microsoft's official documentation on each of those. Click in here, so be sure to check that out if you're interested. Let's speak briefly on some features that are specific to NTFS. On NTFS volumes, you can set permissions that grant or deny access to files and folders. The permissions are full control, modify, read and execute, list folder contents, read and write. And there's a little table here that has it all listed out here. The below image lists the meaning of each permission on how it applies to a file in the folder. So be sure to read all through this here. How can you view the permissions on a folder or a file? All right, basically just go in here and you can right click it and then go to properties and you go to security. All right, and you can see stuff here in advanced. No, it's not advanced sharing. Sorry, there you go. Security, and you can see things in here, right? Allow, deny, stuff like that. Go in, you can edit the permissions for it, add, remove, all that stuff. Refer to the Microsoft documentation to get a better understanding of NTFS permissions for special permissions. Another feature of NTFS is alternate data streams, ADS. ADS is a file attribute specific to Windows NTFS, new technology, file system. Every file has at least one data stream, $data, and ADS allows files to contain more than one stream of data. Natively, Windows Explorer doesn't display ADS to the user. There are third-party executables that can be used to view this data, but PowerShell gives you the ability to view ADS for files. If you don't know what PowerShell is, be sure to click this and learn about it. From a security perspective, malware writers have used ADS to hide data. Not all its uses are malicious. For example, when you download a file from the internet, there are identifiers written to ADS to identify that the file was downloaded from the internet. To learn more about ADS, refer to the following link from Malwarebytes here. So be sure to click this and learn about it. Bonus, if you wish to interact with hands-on ADS, I suggest exploring day 21 of Advent of Cyber 2, so be sure to check that out if you're interested. And NTFS, what does it stand for? Well, it stands for New Technology File System. So copy and paste. And we're going to continue on to the next task here. There we go. And let's take a look at task number 5. The Windows/System32 folders. The Windows folder C Windows is traditionally known as the folder which contains the Windows operating system. The folder doesn't have to reside in C drive necessarily. It can reside on any other drive and typically can reside in a different folder. This is where environment variables, more specifically system variables, come into play. Even though not discussed yet, the system environment variable for this Windows directory is %windir%. Per Microsoft environment, variables store information about the operating system environment. This information includes details such as the operating system path, the number of processors used by the operating system, and the location of temporary folders. There are many folders within the Windows folder see below, right? So you can go in and check it out yourself as well. Let me get out all of this here, right? So we go to C and the Windows. You can see all kinds of stuff in here. All right, many folders see System32, right? So if you scroll down here, you should be able to see it there, System32, right? There's a bunch of stuff in here. System32 folder holds the important files that are critical for the operating system. You should proceed with extreme caution when interacting with this folder. Accidentally deleting any files or folders within System32 can render the Windows OS inoperable. Read more about this action here, so be sure to check this out. Many of the tools that will be covered in the Windows Fundamentals series reside within the Windows or the System32 folder. What is the variable for the Windows folder? So if you scroll back up here, you can find that out, and it was this here. So we're going to copy and paste. There we go. Now let's continue on to task number 6 and see what they're working with here. Task number 6, user accounts, profiles, and permissions. User accounts can be one of two types on a typical local Windows system, administrator and standard user. The user account type will determine what actions the user can perform on that specific Windows system. An administrator can make changes to the system, add users, delete users, modify groups, modify settings on the system, etc. A standard user can only make changes to folders/files attributed to the user and can't perform system-level changes such as install programs. You are currently logged in as an administrator. There are several ways to determine which user account exists on the system. One way is to click the Start menu in the type other user, and system settings, other users. So go ahead and try this out yourself and see what they have. Right, or you can just do it like this. You can type in other users, like it says here, other users. There you go. Add users, remove, edit, etc. So there you go. Local account. And since you're an administrator, you can see add anyone else to this PC. A standard user will not see this option. Click on the local user count, change the type, remove it, stuff like that. Click on the change account type, and you can see options here, right? Standard user, administrator. And let's see, when a user account is created, a profile is created for the user. The location for each user profile folder will fall under the C users. For example, the user profile folder for the user account max will be C users max. The creation of the user profile is done upon initial login. When a user or new user account logs into a local system for the first time, they'll see several messages on the login screen. One of the messages, user profile service, sits on the login screen for a while, which is at work creating the user profile. See below, please wait, right? I'm sure you guys have seen this before. Once logged in, the user will see a dialog box similar to the one below, indicating that their profile is in creation. Each user profile will have the same folders. A few of them are below: desktop, documents, downloads, music. So if you go back into File Explorer here and you close out of some of this stuff. Anyway, all right, you go to C, C, and then you got users here. You can see stuff in administrator, public. TryHackMe Billy, right? And you got the same folders in here, or yeah, same folders. Another way to access the information and then some is using local users and group management. So if you go down here, you can just type it in. I mean, so if you type in groups, I believe, nope, maybe local group. There we go. Nope. All right, because you can't do it that way. Well, okay, let's just follow along here. If you go in here and you type in run, let me close this stuff out and see. All right, now you can see the users in here. You can go to groups and see using what. Let's check the local admins group, and only this administrator account is in there. All right, note the run dialog box opens items quickly. Back to LUSRMGR, however you pronounce that, you'll see two folders, users and groups, which I've already shown below. If you click on the groups, you can see all names, which you've already done. Each group has permission set to it, and users are added to groups by the administrator. When the user is assigned to a group, the user inherits the permissions of that group. A user can be assigned to multiple groups. Note, if you click on the add someone else to this PC, other users, it will open local users and group management. What is the name of the other user account in here? So if we go back and check, it was this TryHackMe Billy. So go ahead and type that in here. TryHackMe Billy. There we go. What groups is the name or is the user a member of? So let's go ahead and see. I don't think you can check it through this way. Nope. So let's go back and see. Maybe. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. Member of remote desktop users. All right, and then also the users group. So let's do it. Type this in as well. There we go. What built-in account is for guest access to the computer? All right, so let's go ahead and see here. Well, it's going to be guest. There we go. It says it right here under description, built-in guest account. And you can see that there seems to be a password in the description section of TryHackMe. Make sure not to do that, folks. That's bad security practices there. What is the account status? And it says it's disabled. So let's see here. Go to properties and let's see. Let's see what they're actually looking for here. Yeah, so, I guess they want account is disabled. The whole thing in there, okay, is disabled. There we go. And task number 7 here, user account control. The large majority of home users are logged into their Windows systems as local administrators. Remember from the previous task that any user with administrator as the account type can make changes to the system. A user doesn't need to run with high elevated privilege on the system to run tasks that don't require such activities or privileges, such as surfing the internet, working on a Word document, etc. This elevated privilege increases the risk of system compromise because it makes it easier for malware to infect the system. Consequently, since the user account can make changes to the system, the malware would run in the context of the logged user. I love local admins. If I'm a penetration tester or red teamer, I love seeing accounts that are local admins on the box. All right, it makes my job a lot easier. To protect the local user, which or with such privileges, Microsoft introduced user account control, also known as UAC. This concept was first introduced with the short-lived Windows Vista and continued with versions of Windows that followed. UAC by default doesn't apply by the built-in local administrator account. How does it work? When a user with an account type of administrator logs to the system, the current session doesn't run with elevated permissions. When an operation requiring higher level privileges needs to execute, the user will be prompted to confirm if they permit this operation to run. Let's look at the program on the account you're currently logged into. The built-in administrator account, right-click and view its properties. All right. So if you go here and right-click and view property. Oh, they want us to look at CrowdStrike, or sorry, Wireshark here. So let's go ahead and do that. Take a look. You can see security tab here. You can see the permissions of each little account has here. So I can do pretty much anything. It says notice that the standard user is not listed. Log in as a standard user and try to install this program. To do this, you can remote desktop into the machine as a standard user account. You have the username and password for the standard user. It's visible if you go and look here. Before installing the program, notice the icon. Do you see the difference? When you've logged in as a standard user, the shield icon is on the program's default icon screen below. Let's see here. So go ahead and try this out. All right, you can RDP to this box here through the attacker box here, right, as it stated in the room earlier. So go ahead and try that out if you're interested. And you're going to see an icon look like this. And if you try to run this program, basically this USC prompt is going to come up. You're going to need to know the administrator password and username. After some time, if the password is not entered, the USC prompt disappears and the program does not install. This feature reduces the likelihood of malware successfully compromising your system. You can read more about USC here, so be sure to check that out. And this is, just go back up here and see what USC was. Remember, it's user access control. So let's go ahead and copy and paste this and then continue on to the next task. All right, there we go. Now task number 8 here, and we're going to be talking about settings and the control panel. On a Windows system, the primary locations to make changes are the settings menu and the control panel. For a long time, the control panel has been the go-to location to make system changes such as adding a printer, uninstall a program, etc. The settings menu was introduced in Windows 8. The first Windows operating system catered to touchscreen tablets and is still available in Windows 10. As a matter of fact, the settings menu is now the primary location a user goes to if they are looking to change the system. There are similarities and differences between the two menus. Below are screenshots of each. See, you can see the settings area here. You can take a look at it yourself. Right? You can just go here and you can type in settings. All right, or not. You just click this little gear icon. It'll bring it up. Let me get out of this here. All right, go to home. There you go. Windows settings. They got control panel stuff. You can type it in here as well. Control panel. Let's see, control panel. There you go. And it'll bring up control panel stuff. Note the icons for the settings might be different in the version of Windows on your personal device. Both can be accessed from the Start menu. So go ahead and try that if you haven't done so already. It goes and talks about network settings. Okay, you can go ahead, go down here, and you can right-click on the little computer icon, monitor icon. You go to Open Network and Settings. You can get to it that way. You can go to change adapter settings to bring up the actual NIC card settings here. You can get into here, you right click, you can go to properties, see all kinds of stuff, right? After you get in here, you can go and look around. You can go to this Internet Protocol version 4. You go to properties here, you can go and see what is configured and such. So let's go ahead and continue on here. And it's just telling you, you can go back to control panel through that way. And let's go ahead and skip through some of this here. All right, questions. And control panel, change the view to small icons. What is the last setting in the control panel view? So let's go ahead and close out of this stuff here and go back to control panel, right? Change the view. So let's see here, small icons. And it says, what is the last setting in the control panel view? And it should be this Windows Defender Firewall. So let's go and type that in here, Windows Defender Firewall. There we go. Now let's go ahead and talk about Task Manager. For task number 9, Task Manager is awesome. It'll come and save the day sometimes when applications don't want to work right. Let's see here. The last subject that will be touched on in this module is the Task Manager. Task Manager provides information about the applications and processes currently running on the system. Other information is also available, such as how CPU, RAM are being utilized, which falls under performance. You can access Task Manager by right-clicking the task bar. So let's go ahead and do that. You can do that, and then Task Manager as so. And you go to more details down here. It'll bring up more details. All right, Task Manager will come up. Simple view won't show much information, more details. And it says you can refer to this blog for more detailed information about Task Manager. So check that out if you're not familiar with Task Manager. Get familiarized with it, because if not, then you won't be able to learn its capabilities and what it can do. If you wish to learn about the core Windows processes and what each process is responsible for, visit the core Windows process room. So be sure to check that out if you're interested. What is the keyboard shortcut to open Task Manager? And let's see what that is. The keyboard shortcut. You probably have to go and check it out here. But I am just going to Google it and see what they say. Let's see here. All right, now let's see what Google has to say. Control Shift Escape. Let's see if that's what they're looking for. Control plus Shift plus Escape. There we go. Now task number 10 for the conclusion. Again, this was a generic overview of the Windows OS. There are intermediate and advanced topics for each task that was covered in this room. Hence, task 9 ended with a detailed blog post explaining the task manager in great detail. In future modules, we'll cover topics like the Windows folder, the management console, security tools, such as Windows Defender, Windows Firewall, etc. To name a few, read above and terminate the Windows machine you deployed in this room. All right, folks, that wraps it up. Hopefully, you had a good time, you enjoyed yourself, you found this video to be informational, educational, and if you did, please consider hitting that subscribe button with the notification bell. If you're new here, hit the like button if you enjoyed it, hit the comment section on your thoughts and opinions on the information shared in the video. And as always, thank you for watching, and I will see you later. Have a good one. Hey everybody, this is WireDogSec. Just a quick reminder to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Once you hit the notification bell, be sure to set to all notifications so you know every time I post to the channel, upload a video, all that good stuff. Let's continue to grow our glorious community here. We are in the cyber trenches. We're not just reporting on it. Be sure to check out my channel as well. I have tons of videos that you can see here, over 300 videos ready for you to check out and learn something from. Be sure to review my posts. I'm frequently posting new things to my channel here, including jobs and everything related to that. Also, I have tons of playlists here that you can review, make it more convenient for you. Anyway, happy defending, happy hacking, enjoy the video. Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. This is WireDogSec, and I'm back with another video for you guys, and we are going to continue on with the TryHackMe pre-security room here. We're in the Windows Fundamentals 2 room here. It says in part 2 of the Windows Fundamentals module, discover more about system configuration, UAC settings, resource monitoring, the Windows Registry, and more. Now let's go ahead and dive into it. Task number 1, Introduction. We will continue our journey exploring the Windows operating system and Windows Fundamentals. 1. We covered the desktop, the file system, user access control, the control panel, settings, and the task manager. This model will attempt to provide an overview of some other utilities available within the Windows operating system and different methods to access these utilities. Launch the virtual machine if you wish to access the virtual machine via remote desktop and use the credentials below. So go ahead and do that. If you wish to do RDP, I'm just going to use it over here. I already have it pulled up, so I'm not going to RDP into it. System configuration, task number 2. The system configuration utility, lmsconfig, is used for advanced troubleshooting, and its main purpose is to help diagnose startup issues. Reference the following document here for more information on the system configuration utility. There are several methods to launch system configuration. One method is from the start menu. So you can do that. You can go ahead and go here, and there is not a search bar here. Okay, then. That is weird. So let's see. Let's continue on here. Maybe we can find it somewhere else. And it says, note, you need local administrator rights to open this utility. The utility has 5 tabs across the top. Below are the names of each tab. We'll briefly go over each in this task below. And, okay, let's just look around here so we can just navigate to it this way. Alright, let's see. There we go. System configuration. Awesome. Alright, tab number 1, it says General, then Boot, Services, Startup, and Tools. You can see them up here. In the General tab, we can select what devices and services for Windows to load upon boot. The options are normal, diagnostic, or selective. In the Boot tab, we can define various boot options for the operating system. The Services tab lists all services configured for the system, regardless of their state, running or stopped. A service is a special kind or type of application that runs in the background. There you go. In the Startup tab, you won't see anything interesting in the attached VM. Below is a screenshot of the Startup tab of msconfig for my local machine. As you can see, Microsoft advises using Task Manager to manage, enable, disable startup items. The system configuration utility is not a startup management program. Note, if you open Task Manager for the attached VM, you'll notice that Task Manager doesn't show a startup tab. There is a list of various utilities, tools, and a tools tab that we can run to configure the operating system further. There is a brief description of each tool to provide some insight into the tool, what the tool is used for. And let's see here. Yep, right here, all kinds of information in here. Notice the selected command section. The information in these text box will change per tool. To run a tool, we can use the command to launch the tool via the run prompt, command prompt, or by clicking the launch button. What is the name of the service that lists system internals as the manufacturer? Hey everybody, just a quick little blurb here. As you can see here, most people that view my channel are not subscribers. If you're new here, please consider subscribing to the channel. If you're enjoying the video, please consider hitting the like button. It helps get me in the algorithm, helps spread the good word out there, helps bring more people and increase our glorious community here. All right, I'm all about helping out others. I know what it's like to come up in cybersecurity or even try to get into cybersecurity and not knowing where to look. I'm just having this channel up so I can help out other people. All right, that's all I got. And this is going to be this PS shutdown. As you can see there, manufacturer says system internals. So let's go and type that in here. PS shutdown. All right. Whom is the Windows license registered to? So let's go ahead and see if we can find that here. Let's see. All right, it says Windows user. So there we go. What is the command for Windows troubleshooting? And let's see if we can find that in here. All right, so go ahead and sort this Windows troubleshooting. And it's going to be this long one right here. So I'm just going to copy and paste it if I can. See if it lets me. Oops. All right, there we go. All right, what command will open the control panel? The answer is the name of the XE, not the full path. All right, so the control panel. Let's see what they have in here. All right, this one is going to be this control.exe. So let's go ahead and paste that in there. There we go. And task number 3, we're going to talk about change UAC settings. We're continuing with the tools that are available through the system configuration panel. User account control, UAC, was covered in great detail in Windows Fundamentals 1. The UAC settings can be changed or even turned off entirely, not recommended. You can move the slider to see how the setting will change the UAC settings and Microsoft stance on the setting. Here's how it looks here. It says, what is the command to open user account control settings? The answer is in the name of the XE file, not the path. So let's go ahead and find this. Let's see if we can find it in here somewhere. There it is. Change UAC settings. There we go. So this is going to be it here. So I'm going to copy and paste it out of here. All right, there we go. If you want to watch it and play around with it, you can. So slide it up, down, what have you. So I'm going to cancel. And let's continue on to task number 4, computer management. We're continuing on with tools that are available through the system configuration panel. The computer management comp MGMT utility has 3 primary sections: system tools, storage, and services and applications. So I'm just going to go ahead and open this bad boy up here. All right, system tools. Let's start with Task Scheduler. Per Microsoft, with Task Schedule, you can create and manage common tasks that our computer will carry out automatically at the times we specify. A task can run an application, a script, etc. And tasks can be configured to run at any point. A task can run at login or at log off. Tasks can also be configured to run on a specific schedule, for example, every 5 minutes. To create a basic task, click the Create Basic Task under the Actions pane. So if we go here and then up here, let's see. Yep, there we go. Create Basic Task. Next is Event Viewer. Event Viewer allows us to view events that have occurred on the computer. These record events can be seen as an audit trail that can be used to understand the activity on the computer system. This information is often used to diagnose problems and investigate actions executed on the system. And it's located here. And you'll probably come across this if you ever do any type of incident response, forensics type of work. You'll go in here and you'll check out like security related logs or any logs that could possibly help out in the investigation. Event Viewer has 3 panes. Number 1, the pane on the left provides a hierarchical tree listing of the events log providers as shown in the image above this little area here. Number 2, the pane in the middle will display a general overview and summary of the events specific to a specific provider. There you go here. All right, mess around with it, look at details, general, stuff like that. Number 3, the pane on the right is the actions pane. As you can see, you can do all kinds of stuff in here. You can filter out certain logs, look for certain logs, save all events, etc., etc. There are 5 types of events that can be logged. Below is a table from docs.microsoft.com providing a brief description of each. I recommend checking this out and getting familiarized with it because you'll probably come across it in your career. These standard logs are visible under Windows Logs. Below is a table from docs.microsoft.com providing a brief description for each, so be sure to read through this and check it out. For more information about Event Viewer and Event Logs, please refer to Windows Event Log Room, so be sure to check that room out. Shared folders is where you will see a complete list of shares and folders that others can connect to. In the above image under shares are the default share of Windows C $, and default remote administration shares created by Windows, such as admin $. As with any object in Windows, you can right-click on a folder, view its properties such as permissions, who can access the shared resource. Under sessions, you will see a list of users who are currently connected to the shares. In this VM, you won't see anybody connected to the shares. All the folders and/or files that are connected users access will list under open files. The local users and groups section you should be familiar with from Windows Fundamentals 1 because it's lusr manager.msc. And performance, you'll see a utility called Performance Monitor, perfmon. Perfmon is used to view performance data either in real life or from a log file. This utility is useful for troubleshooting performance issues on a computer, whether local or remote. All right, so let's see here. They have performance monitor right here, so if you want to go ahead and look at it, feel free to do that. Go through and you can see all kinds of stuff in here. All right, so let's go ahead and close out of this. And then it said shared folders, so let's see where that is located. Is it here? Let's see. Yes, shared folders. There we go. Sessions. Nothing in there. Okay. Yep. All right. Let's continue on here. And it says perfmon is used to view performance data either in real time or from a log file. This utility is useful for troubleshooting performance issues on a computer, whether local or remote. Device Manager allows us to view and configure the hardware, such as disabling any hardware attached to the computer. Storage, under storage is Windows Server Backup and Disk Management. We'll only look at disk management in this room. So it's down here. Note, the virtual machine is a Windows Server operating system. There are utilities available that will typically not see in Windows 10. Disk management is a system utility in Windows that enables you to perform advanced storage tasks. Some tasks are set up a new drive, extend a partition, trigger a partition, assign or change a drive letter, example E drive. Services and applications, recall from the previous task. A service is a special type of application that runs in the background. Here you can do more than enable or disable a service, such as view the properties for the service. This is what it looks like here. All right, mess around in here, go to view, nothing, okay. There we go. Let's see here. WMI control configures and controls the Windows Management Instrumentation WMI service. Per Wikipedia, WMI allows scripting languages such as WB Script, which is Visual Basic Script, or Windows PowerShell to manage Microsoft Windows personal computers and servers both locally and remotely. Microsoft also provides a command line interface to WMI called Windows Management Instrumentation Command Line, WMIC, or WMIC. The WMIC tool is deprecated in Windows 10 version 21H1. Windows PowerShell supersedes this tool for WMI. All right, let's answer some of these questions. What is the command to open computer management? The answer is the name of the exe. So we're already in here, right? So it should be this here. Let's go ahead and copy and paste this over. All right, at what time every day is the Google Update Task Machine UA task configured to run? All right, so let's go back and open up that task manager or task scheduler here. There we go. Open this up here. Oop, not that one. Okay, I forgot where to put it, or how to get to it again. There, we'll just go here and do it this way. All right, go here and let's look around. Let's see here. All right, Google Update 6:15 every day. So go ahead and type this in here. 6:15 a.m. Oh, 15 a.m. All right, what is the name of the hidden folder that is shared? So let's go back to find those folders. Okay, it should be this one here, it looks like. Yep. So let's go ahead and look at properties and just copy and paste this over. All right, so let's go ahead and cancel out of this. And let's continue on to task number 5, system information. We're continuing with tools that are available through the system configuration panel. What is the system information MS Info tool? Per Microsoft, Windows includes a tool called Microsoft System Information MS Info 32.exe. This tool gathers information about your computer and displays a comprehensive view of your hardware, system components, and software environment, which you can use to diagnose computer issues. The information and system summary is divided into 3 sections: hardware resources, components, software environment. System summary will display general technical specifications for each or for the computer, such as processor, brand, and model. So let's go ahead and see what we can find out here. So we want to go to system information here and click launch just to bring it up here. And you can see all kinds of stuff in here, right? Let's see, the information displayed in hardware resources is not for the average computer user. If you want to learn more about the section, refer to official Microsoft page. So check that out if you're interested. And under components, you can see specific information about the hardware devices installed on the computer. Some sections don't show any information, but some sections do, such as display and input. So let's go ahead and just extend that. You can see all kinds of stuff in there, input, yada, yada, yada. In the software environment section, you can see information about software baked into the operating system and software you have installed. Other details are visible in the section as well, such as the environment variables and network connections. So let's go ahead and minimize this, extend that. You can see all kinds of stuff in here. Recall from Windows Fundamentals 1 room, the Windows System 32 folder task, where environmental variables was briefly touched on. Now you can read through this here. I'm going to skim through some of this here. Click on environmental variables to see the assigned variables for that machine. All right, there you go. Another method to view environmental variables is the following here. So be sure to do this as well if you're unfamiliar with that way of getting to it. The tutorial is over. Let's redirect our attention back to MS Info 32 and pick up where we left off. Towards the very bottom of this utility, there is a search bar. Please give it a go. Select components and search for IP address. So we go ahead and do that, IP address. All right, let's see, find. There you go. What is the command to open system information? And let's go back to this area here. All right, system information should be this here, msinfo.exe. So copy and paste that over. What is listed under system name? All right, so let's go ahead and see what it said there. System name, there it is. Wonder if it lets me copy this information out of here. Yes, it does. Awesome. All right. Under environmental variables, what is the value of com spec? All right, so let's go ahead and see environmental variables, and then com spec is this here. So let's just go ahead and copy and paste this information over here. Okay, delete all this, and there we go. All right, task number 6, resource monitor. We're continuing with tools that are available through the system configuration panel. What is resource monitor? Resmon. Resource monitor displays per process and aggregated CPU, memory, disk, and network usage information, in addition to providing details about which processes and or are using individual files, handles, and modules, etc., etc. Be sure to read through the rest of this here. As some of the other tools mentioned in this room, this utility is geared primarily to advanced users whom need to perform advanced troubleshooting on this computer system. In the Overview tab, Resmon has 4 sections: CPU, disk, network, and memory. So let me close out all this stuff here and just go to Resource Monitor, launch it up. So we can just follow along with some of the stuff. Up there at the top, you can see what they're talking about. And it says the same 4 sections have corresponding tabs at the top. Note, each tab has additional information for each. An image has been shown from each tab, so you go through and cycle through the stuff, take a look at what they have in here. Although not captured in any of these images above, Resource Monitor has a pane at the far right. This pane shows a graphical view in real life for each section, and that's this here they're talking about. Note, the information displayed in Resource Monitor will be different for you compared to the images above. What is the command to open Resource Monitor? Alright, so let's go back over here, and it should be this here. Let's copy and paste this over. Alright, task number 7, command prompt. We're continuing with tools that are available through the system control panel. The command prompt, CMD, can seem daunting at first, but it's really not that bad once you understand how to interact with it. In early operating systems, the command line was the way to solve was the sole way to interact with the operating system. And they're talking about back in like the MS-DOS days and stuff like that. When the GUI, graphical user interface, was introduced, it allowed users to perform complex tasks with a few clicks of a button instead of entering commands in the command prompt. Even though the GUI is the primary way to interact with the system, a computer user can still interact via command prompt. In this task, we'll only cover a few commands that a computer user can run in the command prompt to obtain information about the computer system. Let's start with a few commands such as hostname and who am I. So let's go ahead and pull this up. All right, now let's go ahead and type in hostname. All right, then who am I? There you go. Looks just like that. Who am I is going to be logged in the user, and then hostname is going to be the name of the machine you're on. Next, let's look at some commands that are useful when troubleshooting. Of course, CLS is to clear the screen, by the way. Then you use ipconfig. It's going to bring up network configuration stuff here. And you can also you can get into other areas of it as well. They want to use this question mark here to find out more details. All right, so let's go ahead and try that here. All right, you can see all kinds of options, flags, whatever you want to call them, that you can use in here to operate. So read through all this stuff here, get familiar with ipconfig stuff, and let's continue on. The next command is netstat. So get out of this here, netstat. Says per the help manual, this command will display protocol statistics and current TCP/IP network connections. All right, and that's what it looks like here. It's netstat. All right, you could use that question mark in there. You could pull up the help options. All right, so read through there. And let's continue on. In the above image, the line within the red text box shows us an example of syntax for the command. The structure tells us the netstat command can be run alone or with the parameters such as A, B, and E, etc. When any of these parameters are appended to the root command, netstat in this case will output changes. Play with a few of these yourself. The net command is similar or primarily used to manage network devices or resources. This command supports subcommands. If you type net without a subcommand, the output for the syntax for the root command is showing a few of the subcommands you can use. So go ahead and type that out here, net. There you go. For the net command to display the help manual, you can do that. There you go. Or you can just do question mark. Right, yeah. And you can do help. Same thing here. There you go. So you get more details when you do help, right? Kind of like that, the man from Linux for manual. Let's continue on here. So if you wish to see the help information for net user, the command will be net help user. So let's go ahead and clear the screen here and type that in. Net help and user. All right, you can do all kinds of stuff in there. You'll probably come across this as well in your career. I like using this when I'm looking up user accounts and stuff from the query like Active Directory stuff. You can use the SAM command to view the help information for other useful net subcommands such as local group, use, share, and session. Refer to the following link to see a comprehensive list of commands you can execute in the command prompt here, so check that out. And system configuration, what is the full command for Internet Protocol configuration? So let's go back over here, Internet Protocol configuration. So let's go ahead and copy and paste all this out. Here we go. For the ipconfig command, how do you show detailed information? Remember, it's ipconfig, then forward slash, try to look for help here. No, it's not help. Question mark. Hold on a second. Let's go ahead and just run this real quick. Ipconfig. Let me scroll back up, make sure. Okay. Yeah, that should have been that. That should have been that. Let's see. I didn't misspell something there. Okay, they want you to use this one. All right. I know what they're talking about now. All is going to be it. Show detailed information. All right, right in front of my face. Task number 8, Registry Editor. We're continuing with tools, yada, yada, yada. Windows Registry per Microsoft is a central hierarchical database used to store information necessary to configure the system for one or more users, applications, or hardware devices. The registry contains information that Windows continually references during operations such as profiles of each user, application installed on the computer, property sheets, what hardware exists on the system, the ports that are being used. Warning, registry is for advanced computer users. Making changes to the registry can affect normal computer operations. That's right. Don't be in here messing around with stuff you don't know what you're doing because you could destroy your computer. Stuff may not work properly like it should if you're in here just messing with stuff. These there are various ways to view slash edit the registry. One way is to use registry editor, which is regedit. Wonder if you can get to it through here. Yep, there we go. All right. Refer to the following Microsoft documentation here to learn more about Windows Registry. What is the command to open the registry editor? All right, so let's go back over here and copy and paste this. Just going to deal with XE, so there we go. All right. You can also do it through here. Let's see. So if you type in regedit, you can pull it up here. All right. So I mean, I'm pretty sure you can do all these like that. It was MS Info 32. Yep, see, if you type this, you can type stuff in through the command prompt. You don't have to keep going through, you don't have to keep going through system configuration, right? There's various ways you can do this. I mean, they're all in here as well. A lot of them are in here. All right, so let's go to the conclusion, task number 9. Recall that the tasks covered in this room were some of the tools that you can launch from msconfig. Throughout the room, commands and shortcuts were shared for the utilities. This means you don't have to launch msconfig to run these utilities. You can also run some of these utilities directly from the start menu. See below where some of these utilities can be found. So you go here and you can look around Windows administration or administrative tools, and a lot of them are in here. Some of the tools listed in msconfig that weren't mentioned in this room were either covered in Windows Fundamentals 1 or were left for you to explore and own. All right, so that's pretty much it. I recommend familiarizing yourself with the command line. Get comfortable with the command line and PowerShell command line as well, because you're probably going to come across it in your career. And you're probably going to be utilizing some of these commands in your career, like ipconfig, ipconfig all, hostname, who am I, stuff like that. And that wraps it up, folks. Thank you for watching. And if you want to support the channel, please consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell, hitting that like button, commenting below with your thoughts and opinions. As always, thank you for watching. Have a nice day, and I will see you next time. Hey everybody, this is WireDogSec. Just a quick reminder to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Once you hit the notification bell, be sure to set to all notifications so you know every time I post to the channel, upload a video, all that good stuff. Let's continue to grow our glorious community here. We are in the cyber trenches. We're not just reporting on it. Be sure to check out my channel as well. I have tons of videos. You can see here over 300 videos ready for you to check out and learn something from. Be sure to review my posts. I'm frequently posting new things to my channel here, including jobs and everything related to that. Also, I have tons of playlists here that you can review, make it more convenient for you. Anyway, happy defending, happy hacking, enjoy the video. Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. This is WireDogSec, and I'm back with another video for you guys. Today's video, we are going to continue on with the pre-security learning path, and we are checking out the Windows Fundamentals. This is Windows Fundamentals 3. In part 3 of the Windows Fundamentals module, learn about the built-in Microsoft tools that help keep the device secure, such as Windows Updates, Windows Security, BitLocker, and more. Now, let's go ahead and jump into it. Introduction. We will continue our journey exploring the Windows operating system. To summarize the previous two rooms, in Windows Fundamentals 1, we covered the desktop, the file system, user access or account control, the control panel, settings, and the task manager. In Windows Fundamentals 2, we covered various utilities such as system configuration, computer management, resource monitor, etc. This module will attempt to provide an overview of the security features within the Windows operating system. Launch the virtual machine by following these instructions below, and you can remote desktop into it if you choose to do so. I'm just going to use the web interface here. All right, let's mark this as complete. Now, as that's loading up, let's continue on to task number 2 here. We're going to talk about Windows updates. Let's start things off with the Windows updates. Windows Update is a service provided by Microsoft to provide security updates, feature enhancements, and patches for the Windows operating system and other Microsoft products such as Microsoft Defender. Updates are typically released on the second Tuesday of each month. This is called Patch Tuesday. This doesn't necessarily mean that a critical update/patch has to wait for the next Patch Tuesday to be released. If the update is urgent, then Microsoft will push the update via the Windows Update service or to use the Windows devices. Refer to the following link to see the Microsoft Security Update Guide here, so be sure to check this out if you want. Windows Update is located in the settings below. Tip: another way to access Windows Update is from the Run dialog box or CMD by running the command control name Microsoft.Windows Update. And this is what it looks like here in that screen. So as soon as this gets done loading up, we'll take a look at that. In the attached VM, there are a few things to highlight. The Windows Updates settings are managed typically. Home users will not see this type of message. There are no available updates available for the virtual machine. The attached virtual machine does not have internet access to communicate with Microsoft to obtain new features. And that's right, usually if it's a home Windows box, you're probably going to be using Windows Home. And in the corporate environment, you're probably going to be using Windows Pro or Windows Enterprise. And most likely, those updates are managed by the IT department, right? Because you don't want just random updates being sent out to machines that could cause all kinds of issues. All right, so I'm just gonna go here, and then there's update and security down here, and there you go. Windows Update, and it's not gonna work if you click check for updates because there's no internet access according to what they said here. All right, so let's go ahead and continue on. Throughout the years, Windows users have grown accustomed to pushing Windows updates off to a later date or not installing updates at all. Various reasons cause this action. One being the fact that a reboot is typically required after a Windows update. Microsoft notably addressed this issue with Windows 10. The updates can no longer be ignored or pushed to the side until forgotten. Windows updates can often or only be postponed, but eventually the update will happen and your computer will reboot. Microsoft provides these updates to keep the device safe and secure. Below is an image of how a restart required looks and the several options available regarding schedule the restart. And this is exactly what it looks like here. And as it says here, pause updates for 7 days, etc. Sometimes you can't edit this if you're working in a corporate environment. Like I said, it's managed by the IT department, and sometimes they don't allow you to push these updates off. You just gotta sit there and take it. I mean, hopefully they schedule it during after hours or off hours when you're not working, so your computer can reboot. And let's see here. There were 2 definition updates installed in the attached VM. On what date were these updates installed? So let's go ahead and look at update history here. Find that information here. And it says definition update. So let's go ahead and click here. And they were installed on 5/3/2021. So let's go ahead and type that in here. 5/3/2021. All right, there we go. Let's continue on to task number 3 here. Windows security. Per Microsoft, Windows Security is your home to manage the tools that protect your device and your data. In case you missed it, Windows Security is also available in the settings. So if you go back to the settings area, it's right here, Windows Security. In the above image, focus your attention on protection areas, a virus and threat protection, firewall, and network protection, app and browser control, device security. Each following task will briefly touch on these areas. Before proceeding, let's provide a quick comment on the status icons. Green means your device is sufficiently protected, and there isn't or aren't any recommendations or recommended actions. Yellow means that if there's a safety recommendation for you to review. Red is a warning that something needs your immediate attention. Click on the Open Windows Security. And right usually when it's like this, there's X, it's off, like it's disabled. As you can see here, it says it's asking you to turn on. Notes: since the VM is a Windows Server 2019 edition, it looks different from a Windows 10 Home or Professional edition. The below image is from a Windows 10 device, and apparently that's what it looks like. It might look different now since things have updated since this room was released. Next, look at virus and threat protection. In the image above, which area needs immediate attention? Okay, let's take a look here. All right, so looks like hmm, I'm assuming they mean it's virus and threat protection. So let's try that. So virus and threat protection. Yep. Okay. All right, it's kind of they could have worded this a little bit better. Like compare the two images or compare the two and what's the difference between this image and what you see on your machine, right? And this is what you see on the machine here. This needs attention. But anyway, let's continue on to task number 4. Task number 4 says virus and threat protection. So they're divided into two parts: current threats and virus and threat protection settings. The image below only focuses on current threats. There you have it. So what it looks like here. Do a quick scan, etc., etc. And let's continue on here. Current threats, scan options. You got quick scan, checks folders in your system where threats are commonly found. Full scan checks all files and running programs on your hard disk. This scan could take longer than 1 hour. Custom scan, choose which files and locations you want to check. Obviously, the full scan is going to take a while if it's scanning your entire hard drive, everything on there. And it could last a very long time depending on how many files and stuff you have on your machine. Threat history, last scan, Windows Defender, antivirus automatically scans your device for viruses and other threats to keep it safe. Quarantine threats have been isolated and prevented from running on your device. They will periodically be removed. Allowed threats are items to identify threats which you have allowed to run on your device. Sometimes it's not even a threat, it's a false positive that you want to allow to run on your machine. Warning: allow an item to run that has been identified as a threat only if you're 100% sure on what you're doing. Next is virus and threat protection settings. And it goes in and explains what this is here. You got managed settings, real-time protection, cloud delivery or delivered protection, automatic sample submission, controlled folder access, exclusions, notifications. Warning: excluded items could contain threats that make your device vulnerable. Only use this option if you're 100% sure of what you are doing. So be sure to go through and read through all this all the way and understand what each of these sections mean. Virus and threat protection updates. Check for updates. Manually check for updates to update Windows Defender, antivirus definitions, ransomware protection. Controlled. Right, so uh, controlled folder access. Ransomware protection requires this feature to be enabled, which in turn requires real-time protection to be enabled. Real-time protection is turned off in the attached VM to decrease the chances of performance issues. Since the VM can't reach the internet and there isn't any personal Windows devices unless you have to third-party, sorry, it can't reach the internet. There aren't any threats in the VM. This is safe to do so. Real-time protection should only or definitely be enabled in your personal Windows devices unless you have a third-party product that provides the same protection. Ensure it's always up to date and enabled. I don't use Windows Defender. I use other third-party antivirus solutions. Windows Defender has gotten a lot better over the years. This may all this may be what you need. I mean, probably don't need any third parties, but that's up to you to make a determination on. But back in the day, Windows Defender used to be very, very easy to bypass, and it was straight up hot garbage. But they've made a lot of progress since then. Tip: you can perform on-demand scans on the file folder by right-clicking the item and selecting Scan with Windows Defender. Below image was taken from another Windows device to show this feature. And you can see they right-clicked on these PDF files here. Scan with Microsoft Defender. Specifically, what is turned off that Windows is notifying you to turn on. And this should be the real-time protection here. So let's go ahead and type that in here. Real-time protection. There you go. All right, task number 5. And we are going to talk about firewall and network protection. What is a firewall? Per Microsoft, traffic flows into and out of devices via what we call ports. A firewall is what controls what is and, more importantly, isn't allowed to pass through those ports. You can think of it like a security guard standing at the door, checking the ID of everything that tries to enter or exit. The below image will reflect what you will see when you navigate to firewall and network protection. So let's just go ahead and do that here. Navigate here, and you can see domain, network, firewall is turned on. The network or private network firewall is turned on, and the public network firewall is turned on. And there's a bunch of other options in there as well. So let's go ahead and continue on here. So what's the difference between the three domain, private, and public firewalls here? Per Microsoft, Windows Firewall offers three firewalls profiles: domain, private, and public. Domain profile applies to networks where the host system can authenticate to a domain controller. Private. The profile is a user-assigned profile and is used to designate private or home networks. Public. The default profile is the public profile, used to designate public networks such as Wi-Fi, hotspots at coffee shops, airports, and other locations. And if you click on any firewall profile, another screen will appear. Turn the firewall on and off, block incoming connections, etc., etc. So you go ahead and play around with it. Click in one of them, and it's asking you to turn it on, turn off stuff here. All right, it says don't go in here and mess around with stuff if you don't know what you're doing. All right. Um, like I said, there's more settings in here you can play around with. If you go back here and where's it at? Oh yeah. So you got allow an app, a bunch of other stuff in here too. So you go through and check these settings if it loads. But anyway, it's gonna look like something like the screenshot here. There we go. And let's see here. You can view the current settings for any firewall profile are. And the above image, several apps have access to the public or the private and or public firewall profiles. Some of the apps will provide additional information if it is available via the details button. All right, so there's stuff here. You can go click on details, take a deeper look at stuff here. Configuring the Windows Defender Firewall is for advanced Windows users. Refer to the following Microsoft documentation on best practices. So click that and learn about best practices when it comes to firewalls. Host-based firewalls, actually, because this is a host-based firewall, obviously. Command to open the Windows Defender Firewall is wf.msc. If you are connected to the airport Wi-Fi, what most likely will be active firewall profile. Hey everybody, just a quick little blurb here. As you can see here, most people that view my channel are not subscribers. If you're new here, please consider subscribing to the channel. If you're enjoying the video, please consider hitting the like button. It helps get me in the algorithm, helps spread the good word out there, helps bring more people and increase our glorious community here. All right, I'm all about helping out others. I know what it's like to come up in cybersecurity or even try to get into cybersecurity and not knowing where to look. I'm just having this channel up so I can help out other people. All right, that's all I got. All right, this should be public network. There you go. And let's go to task number 6 here. Talk about app and browser control. In this section, you can change the settings for the Microsoft Defender Smart Screen. Per Microsoft Defender Smart Screen protects against phishing or malware websites and applications and the downloading of potential malicious files. Refer to the official Microsoft document for more information about Microsoft Defender Smart Screen. Click here. So learn about that, check it out. And we're going to go straight into it here, see what they got for us. You want us to go to app and browser control. So let's go ahead and click here. And as you can see, there's various different options in here. You got block, warrant off, exploit protection, some other stuff in here, right? Check apps and files. Windows Defender Smart Screen helps protect your device by checking for unrecognized apps and files from the web. Exploit protection. Exploit protection is built into Windows 10 and, in our case, Windows Server 2019 to help protect your device against attacks. All right, so you can go in there and you can play around with the settings or learn about the settings, how to do it. Warning, unless you're 100% confident. Another thing, as before, if you don't know what you're doing here, don't be in here messing around with stuff. But I recommend familiarizing yourself with these options, play around with it, etc. Get some of that hands-on keyboard experience dealing with host-based firewalls and settings and such. Task number 7, device security. Even though you'll probably never change any of these settings for completion's sake, it will be covered briefly. You got device security. Security comes built with your device, core isolation, yada yada yada. Core isolation, memory integrity, prevents attacks from inserting malicious code into high security processes. Core isolation stuff. Once again, don't mess around with these settings in here if you don't know what you're doing. The below image are from another machine to show another security feature that should be available in a personal Windows 10 device. Security processor. Below are the security processor details, so be sure to check this out if you're interested. And we're going to talk about TPMs, which are trusted platform modules. The technology is designed to provide hardware-based security-related functions. A TPM chip is a secure crypto processor that is designed to carry out cryptographic operations. This chip includes multiple physical security mechanisms to make it tamper-resistant, and malicious software is unable to tamper with the security functions of the TPM. Now, what is the TPM? Well, as we just saw, it's the Trusted Platform Module. So we'll go ahead and plug this in there, and let's continue on to the next task. All right, BitLocker. What is BitLocker? BitLocker Drive Encryption is a data protection feature that integrates with the operating system and addresses the threats of data theft or exposure from lost, stolen, or inappropriately decommissioned computers. On devices with TPM installed, BitLocker offers the best protection. BitLocker provides the most protection when used with a TPM version 1.2 or later. TPM is a hardware, yada, yada, yada. You can read the rest there. Refer to the official Microsoft documentation to learn more about BitLocker here. So check that out. The BitLocker feature is not included in the attached VM. What must the user insert on computers that do not have a TPM version 1.2 or later? And this should be a USB startup key, so be sure to check out the documentation to read about that. That's how you find that answer. Or you can just use Google and it'll tell you. All right, task number 9 here. Volume Shadow Copy Service. Per Microsoft, the Volume Shadow Copy Service, VSS, coordinates the required actions to create a consistent shadow copy, also known as a snapshot or a point-in-time copy of the data that is to be backed up. Volume shadow copies are stored on the system volume information folder on each drive that has protection enabled. If VSS is enabled, system protection turned on, you can perform the following tasks within advanced system settings. Create a restore point, perform system restore, configure restore settings, delete restore points. From a security perspective, malware writers know of this Windows feature and write code in their malware to look for these files and delete them. Doing so makes it impossible to recover from a ransomware attack unless you have an offsite/offsite backups. If you wish to configure shadow copies within the VM, see below. So you can get in here and play around with that as well. So let's just go ahead and just try to navigate to that section here. All right, so you go to File Explorer here, and then this PC, and you can right click on there and configure shadow copies. All right, and it basically looks just like this here as we see below. You can see it's disabled. If you wish to interact hands-on with VSS, I suggest exploring day 23 of Advent of Cyber 2, so be sure to check that out if you're interested in exploring. Now, what does this stand for? Remember, it stands for the Volume Shadow Copy Service. So I'm going to copy and paste this in there, and then we're going to continue on to the next task here, which is the conclusion. All right. Thanks for sticking along with me for this long. In this room, we covered several built-in Windows security tools that ship with the Windows OS to keep the device protected. Let me just close this out real quick, terminate this machine. Okay, terminate all this stuff here just to make the screen bigger. All right, there we go. There is still so much to explain and cover regarding the Windows OS as mentioned in Windows Fundamentals 1 room. The content is aimed at those who wish to understand and use the Windows OS on a more comfortable level. To learn more about the Windows OS, you'll need to continue the journey on your own. Here's some more reading materials, so be sure to check this stuff out here if you're interested in learning more about Windows and such. Note, attackers use built-in Windows tools and utilities in an attempt to go undetected within the victim environment. Detected is known as living off the land or um, LOL, LOTL, whatever you want to pronounce it, LOTL or LOLs. Refer to the following reference here to learn more about this. Yep, low blast, low bins, stuff like that. So be sure to click here and learn about how to live off the land because you may come across this as attackers begin to use more and more of these techniques, and procedures. Okay, we've already read everything here, and that wraps up this video. I'm glad you guys stuck with me, and if you found this video valuable, please consider hitting that subscribe button with the notification bell. If you're new here, hit the like button, comment below your thoughts and opinions. As always, thank you for watching. I'll see you later. Have a nice day. Hey everybody, this is WireDogSec. Just a quick reminder to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Once you hit the notification bell, be sure to set to all notifications so you know every time I post to the channel, upload a video, all that good stuff. Let's continue to grow our glorious community here. We are in the cyber trenches. We're not just reporting on it. Be sure to check out my channel as well. I have tons of videos. You can see here over 300 videos ready for you to check out and learn something from. Be sure to review my posts. I'm frequently posting new things to my channel here, including jobs and everything related to that. Also, I have tons of playlists here that you can review, make it more convenient for you. Anyway, happy defending, happy hacking, enjoy the video. Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. This is WireDogSec back with another video for you guys. We are going to continue on with TryHackMe. This room is the Active Directory Basics. This room will introduce the basic concepts and functionality provided by Active Directory. As you can see here, this is part of the complete beginner learning path as well as the offensive security learning path. But without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into it. Task 1, Introduction. Microsoft's Active Directory is the backbone of the corporate world. It simplifies the management of devices and users within a corporate environment. In this room, we'll take a deep dive into the essential components of Active Directory. Room objectives. In this room, we will learn about Active Directory and we'll become familiar with the following topics: what Active Directory is, what an Active Directory domain is, what components go into an Active Directory domain, force and domain trust, and much more. Room prerequisites. General familiarity with Windows. Check the Windows Fundamentals module for more information. And we've read through everything here. As you can see, I've already started up the machine here. So let's continue on with task number 2, Windows domains. There's going to be a lot of reading in this room, so I may skim over some of the material, but I'll have the link to the room if you want to check it out. Picture yourself administering a small business network with only 5 computers and 5 employees. In such a tiny network, you will probably be able to configure each computer separately without a problem. You will manually log into each computer, create users for whoever will use them, and make specific configurations for each employee's account. If a user's computer stops working, you will probably go to their place and fix the computer on site. While this sounds like a very relaxed lifestyle, let's suppose your business suddenly grows and now has 157 computers and 320 different users located across 4 different offices. Would you still be able to manage each computer as a separate entity, manually configure policies for each of the users across the network, and provide on-site support for everyone? The answer is most likely no, unless you're like Superman or something. To overcome these limitations, we can use a Windows domain. Simply put, a Windows domain is a group of users and computers under the administration of a given business. The main idea behind a domain is to centralize the administration of common components of a Windows computer network in a single repository called Active Directory, or AD for short. The server that runs Active Directory services is known as a domain controller, or DC for short. And here is an image of what they are describing here. Domains, tryhackme.com. You can see they got a file server in here, database server, domain controller is here in the center, and you got the workstation and desktop, right? It says the main advantages of having a configured Windows domain are number one, centralized identity management. All users across the network can be configured from Active Directory with minimum effort. Managing security policies. You can configure security policies directly from Active Directory and apply them to users and computers across the network as needed. A real-world example. If this sounds a bit confusing, chances are that you have already interacted with a Windows domain at some point in your school, university, or work. That's right, most organizations are going to be running Active Directory. I don't think I've ran across an organization that wasn't running Active Directory in some aspect. In school/university networks, you will often be provided with username and password that you can use on any of the computers available on campus. Your credentials are valid for all machines because whenever you input them on a machine, it will forward the authentication process back to the Active Directory where your credentials will be checked. Thanks to Active Directory, your credentials don't need to exist in each machine and are available throughout the network. That's right. They can also be cached on the machine as well in case you don't have network connectivity back to the domain controller. Active Directory is also the component that allows your school/university to restrict you from accessing the control panel on your school university machines. Policies will usually be deployed throughout the network so that you don't have administrative privileges over those computers. Hopefully that's configured that way. Hopefully not everybody is a local admin on those boxes. But let's go ahead and continue. Welcome to THM Inc. During this task, we'll assume the role of the new IT admin at THM Inc. As our first task, we have been asked to review the current domain thm.local and do some additional configurations. You will have administrative credentials over a pre-configured DC to do the task. Be sure to click the Start Machine button. We've already done. You can also RDP into it with those creds here. Note when connecting via RDP, use the following here. So follow these instructions here if you're going to RDP into it. Obviously, I'm just going to reference the machine through this way here. Since we will be connecting to the target via RDP, this is also a good time to start the attack box unless you are using your own machine. In a Windows domain, credentials are stored in a centralized repository called Active Directory, also known as AD. So let's go ahead and type that in there. The server in charge of running the Active Directory services, remember that's the DC, which is domain controller. So if you have complete control over these domain controller, you pretty much own their entire Active Directory environment. All right, task 3, we're going to get into the bread and butter of AD looks like. The core of any Windows domain is the Active Directory Domain Service, also known as ADDS. This service acts as a catalog that holds the information of all objects that exist on your network. Amongst the many objects supported by AD, we have users, groups, machines, printers, shares, and many others. Let's look at some of them. Users are one of the most common object types in Active Directory. Users are one of the objects known as security principals, meaning that they can be authenticated by the domain and can be assigned privileges over resources like files or printers. You could say that a security principal is an object that can act upon resources in the network. Users can be used to represent two types of entities. People. Users will generally represent persons in your organization that need to access the network, like employees. Services. You can also define users to be used by services like IIS or MS SQL. Each single service requires a user to run, but service users are different from regular users as they will only have the privilege needed to run their specific servers. That's if they are configured correctly. You may come across in your career where you'll see service accounts that have been used by users in an organization, i.e., they're using that service account to conduct like everyday activities and such. Well, you probably shouldn't be doing that with a service account, right? As it says here, a service account should be used for a specific service, right? And it should be you should apply the principle of least privilege as well to all these accounts, people and service accounts, all right? Machines. So machines are another type of object within Active Directory. For every computer that joins the Active Directory domain, a machine object will be created. Machines are also considered security principals and are assigned an account just like any regular user. This account has somewhat limited rights within the domain itself. The machine accounts themselves are local administrators on the assigned computer. They are generally not supposed to be accessed by anyone except the computer itself, but as with any other account, if you have the password, you can use it to log in. Note, machine account passwords are automatically rotated out and are generally comprised of 120 random characters. Identifying machine accounts is relatively easy. They follow a specific naming scheme. The machine account name in the domain or in the computer's name followed by $. For example, a machine named DC01 will have a machine account called DC01 $. Security groups. If you are familiar with Windows, you probably know that you can define user groups to assign access rights to files or other resources to entire groups instead of single users. This allows for better manageability as you can add users to an existing group and they will automatically inherit all of the group's privileges. Security groups are also considered security principals and therefore can have privileges over resources on the network. Groups can have both users and machines as members if needed. Groups can include other groups as well. Several groups are created by default in domain that can be used to grant specific privileges to users. As an example, here are some of the most important groups in domain. All right, so we're just going to go down the list here. You got security groups on the left, and you got description of it on the right. All right, so domain admins, also known as DAs. Users of the group have administrative privileges over the entire domain. By default, they can administer any computer on the domain, including the DCs. Basically, this is God mode, all right, being a domain admin. Server operators, users in this group can administer domain controllers. They cannot change any administrative group's memberships. You got backup operators, account operators, domain users, domain computers, and domain controllers. You can obtain a complete list of default security groups from the Microsoft documentation, so check that out if you are interested in that. And let's talk about this next section here, Active Directory users and computers, right? Also known as ADUC. And we have that down here. You can also type it in like they're doing here to try to find it. But as you can see, what they're talking about here, all right? See under THM here, you have other specific, looks like departments and such. You got users here, right? Full of, looks like default users in here. And you got the built-in stuff here. See if there's anything in here. Yep. You got computers. So you can play around with it. You can see all the computers in the Active Directory environment here. The main controllers, you only have the DCs. There you go. And let's go ahead and continue on. We'll probably talk about some of this here shortly. To configure users, groups, or machines in Active Directory, we need to log into the domain controller and run Active Directory users computers from the start menu. So you can do it that way. You can just click down there and click on the logo there. It says this will open up a window where you can see the hierarchy of users, computers, and groups that exist in a domain. These objects are organized in organizational units, also known as OUs for short, which are container objects that allow you to classify users and machines. OUs are mainly used to define sets of users with similar policy requirements. The people in the sales department of your organization are likely to have a different set of policies applied than the people in IT. For example, keep in mind that a user can only be a part of a single OU at a time. Checking our machine, we can see that there's already an OU called THM right here with 4 child OUs for the IT, management, marketing, and sales departments. It is very typical to see the OUs mimic the business structure, as it allows for efficiently deploying baseline policies that apply to entire department. Remember that while this would be expected model most of the time, you can define OUs arbitrarily. Feel free to right click THM OU and create a new OU under it and call it students. So let's go ahead and do that. All right. You can do it that way. You could just click in here and just click new. All right, we're going to go to new and they want us to create a new OU. So let's go ahead and try to do that here. Organizational unit, and I'm going to call it students. Here we go. Hit OK. And now we're done. All right. If you open any of the OUs, you can see the users they contain and perform simple tasks like creating, deleting, and modifying them as needed. You can also reset passwords if needed. Pretty useful for the help desk. Right, like as I said, you can go ahead and click around in there and see users in different OUs here. So let's go ahead and just create one for myself. Let's do a new user, and let's just call it WireDogSec. WireDog, and last name. There we go. Login name, WireDogSec. Bam. There we go. Let's see if I can just leave this blank. Yep. All right. Nope. All right. Well, let's go ahead and type something in here. All right, it's pretty simple to guess password here. All right. Oops, I had a typo in there. Let's try this again. Okay. All right, now let's see if it works. Awesome. So now that's out of the way. Let's go ahead and continue on here. You probably noticed already that there are other default containers apart from the THMOU. These containers are created by default, created by Windows automatically and contain the following. Got built-in, contains default groups available to any Windows host. Computers. Any machine joining the network will be put here by default. You can move them if needed. Domain controllers, default OU that contains DCs in your network. Users, default users and groups that apply to a domain-wide context. Manage service accounts, holds accounts used by services in your Windows domain. Security groups versus OUs. You're probably wondering why we have both groups and OUs. While both are used to classify users and computers, their purposes are entirely different. OUs are handy for applying policies to users and computers, which includes specific configurations that pertain to sets of users depending on their particular role in the enterprise. Remember, a user can only be a member of a single OU at a time, as it would make sense to apply two different sets of policies to a single user. Security groups, on the other hand, are used to grant permissions over resources. For example, you will use groups if you want to allow some users to access a shared folder or network printer. A user can be a part of many groups, which is needed to grant access to multiple resources. All right, question time. Which group normally administers all computers and resources on the domain? Well, that is the domain admins. So let's go ahead and type that in. What would be the name of the machine account associated with a machine name Tom-PC? Remember, we had to put that $sign at the end for those um, machine accounts. So it should be looking like that. Suppose our company creates a new department for quality assurance. What type of containers should we use to group all quality assurance users so that policies can be applied consistently to them? You're going to put those into an organizational unit. So let's go ahead and type that in. There we go. So remember, when you need to um, do it this way, you got to use organizational units, and instead, if you want to do permissions, right, over resources, you're going to use security groups. All right, so task number 4, managing users in AD. Let's see what they're talking about here. Your first task as the new domain admin is to check the existing ADOUs and users as some recent changes have happened to the business. You have been given the following organizational chart and are expected to make changes to AD to match it. You got management at the top here with Daniel, marketing, sales, IT, okay? Deleting extra OUs and users. The first thing you should notice is that there's an additional department OU in your current AD configuration that doesn't appear in the chart. You've been told it was closed due to budget cuts and should be removed from the domain. If you try to right click and delete the OU, you might get the following error message. All right. Um, let's see what the one they're talking about here. It looks like research and development is the one they're talking about. So if you go ahead and try to delete it, you're going to get an error message. Yep. Okay. Let's see. By default, OUs are protected against accidental deletion. To delete the OU, you will need to enable advanced features in the view menu. So you right click on that, and actually they want us to do it this way. Okay. So let's just follow along here. Advanced features. There we go. All right. This will show you some additional containers and enable you to disable the accidental deletion protection. To do so, right click on OU and go to properties. You will find a checkbox in the object tab to disable the protection. So let's go ahead and do that. All right. So now let's go to properties, and you want to go to object and uncheck mark that, hit apply, and OK. All right, be sure to uncheck the box, try deleting OU again. You'll be prompted to confirm that you want to delete the OU. As a result, any users or groups or OUs under it will be deleted. So let's go ahead and do that. Delete, hit yes, Yes, and it's gone. After deleting the XRU, you should notice that for some of the departments, the users in the AD don't match the ones in our organization chart. Create and delete users as needed to match them. All right, so let's go ahead and check this out real quick here. And let's see, management should only have Daniel in it. Okay, that looks good. IT, Philip, Mary, and Claire. Yep, looks good. Sales should have Sophie and Thomas. So they want to go in and delete these users out of here. Delete Robert, delete Christine. There we go. And then Mark should be the only one in marketing. Awesome. Looks like we're good to go there. So let's go back down here and talk about delegation. One of the nice things you can do in AD is to give specific users control or some control over OUs. This process is known as delegation and allows you to grant users specific privileges to perform an advanced task on your OUs without needing a domain administrator to step in. One of the most common uses for this is granting IT support the privileges to reset other low privileged users' accounts, passwords. According to our organizational chart, Philip is in charge of IT support, so we'd probably want to delegate the control of resetting passwords over the sales, marketing, and management OUs to him. All right, so let's see here. Sales, and they want us to right click and delegate control, like so. Step through this here. Go to add, and then we're going to add Philip, right? So let's go ahead and type his name in here, like so. Check names, got him, bam. Next, and then let's go ahead, scroll down, make sure we're doing everything correctly. Okay, we've already done this here. Yep. And then it says click next a couple times. Now, Philip should be able to reset passwords for any user in the sales department. Okay. And all right. Says, sorry, I forgot to check mark that. Reset the passwords. There we go. Now we click next through here, like so. Finish. Okay. Now let's use Philip's account to try and reset Sophie's password. Here are Philip's credentials, so you can log in via RDP. Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. Be sure to hit the like button, comment, and subscribe. Once you subscribe, be sure to hit that notification bell. All right, so you know every time I post a new video. As you can see here, most people that view my videos, view my channel, are not subscribed. Now, if you do subscribe, it will help me get into the YouTube algorithm so that we can continue to grow our glorious community here. As always, thank you all for taking the time to watch. Have a nice day and enjoy the video. Okay, apparently I don't have to do it that way. I can just go in to the domain controller. All I did was go inside the search box here, typed in RDP, and I just connected to it that way. All right, so let's go back into the RDP session here as Philip. When connecting, RDP, yada, yada, yada. Okay. While you may be tempted to go to Active Directory using computers to try and test Philip's new powers, he really doesn't have the privileges to open it. So you'll have to use other methods to do password resets. In this case, we'll be using PowerShell to do so. So let's go ahead and get PowerShell fired up here. Okay. And let's go ahead and open this up. All right, let's just try it like this. I don't think we'll need to run as admin. So let's just do it this way. Okay. And I want us to go ahead and just type this stuff over. So let's go ahead and do that like so. Okay. Looks like it was successful. Since we wouldn't want Sophie to keep on using a password we know, we can also force a password reset at the next login with the following command. So let's go ahead and type that out as well. All right, so that's done. It says log into Sophie's account with new password and retrieve a flag from Sophie's desktop. So I'm going to do it the same way. All right, let me go ahead and log off here and log in as Sophie. So let's sign out here. And I'm going to do it the same way, RDP. Like that, okay. Awesome. So let's go ahead and type in their credentials here. I am logged in as Sophie via RDP. I'm not sure what happened with those credentials, but I had to go through ADUC and I just right clicked and reset the password that way. All right. Anyway, so we made it to the desktop. Here's the flag here, and let's go ahead and grab this. I'm not sure if it'll let me copy and paste this over. Oh, wow. Okay, it actually works. Awesome. The process of granting privileges to a user over some OU or other AD object is called delegation. All right, task number 5, managing computers in AD. And let's go ahead and see what they have for us in this area. By default, all the machines that join a domain except for the DCs will be put in the container called computers. If we check our DC, we will see that some devices are already there. And we saw that earlier. We saw a bunch of computers and stuff in there. We can see some servers, some laptops, and some PCs corresponding to the users in our network. Having all of our devices there is not the best idea, since it's very likely that you want different policies for your servers and the machines that regular users use on a daily basis. While there's no golden rule on how to organize your machines, an excellent starting point is segregating devices according to their use. In general, you'd expect to see devices divided into at least the three following categories. Number one, workstations. Workstations are one of the most common devices within an Active Directory domain. Each user in the domain will likely be logging into a workstation. This is the device they will use to do their work or normal browsing activities. These devices should never have a privileged user assigned into them. That's right, and it should not be local admins on the box. All right. And they're saying like privileged user, like you don't want a domain admin logged into a regular workstation. You know why? Because what happens if that user gets owned by an attacker, right? They click on some malicious link, get malware on the box, and the attacker just goes from there. Like, oh, look here, a domain admin or another privileged account was logged into there. Let's go ahead and dump the creds from memory, and now we can access that account, that privileged account, escalated our privileges. All right, number 2, servers. Servers are the second most common device within an Active Directory domain. Servers are generally used to provide services to users or other servers. 3, domain controllers. Domain controllers are the most or third most common device within an Active Directory domain. Domain controllers allow you to manage the Active Directory domain. These devices are often deemed the most sensitive devices within the network as they contain hashed passwords for all user accounts within the environment. Since we are tidying up our AD, let's create 2 separate OUs for workstations and servers. Domain controllers are already in an OU created by Windows. We will be creating them directly under the thm.local domain controller. In the end, you should have the following OU structure. So let's go ahead and do that. All right. So I'm just going to go ahead and minimize that there and go ahead and right click this, new, I want new OUs. So let's go ahead and do that. Workstations. All right, that's one. And then go and get the second one here. Servers. Awesome. Now move the personal computers and laptops to the workstation OUs and the servers to the servers OU from the computers container. Doing so will allow us to configure policies for each OU later on. So let's go ahead and try that. So we're going to go to computers, and these, I'm assuming these are servers. So let's go ahead and move those over. Sure. All right. All right, servers are done. And they want us to move the laptops, the rest of this stuff over. So let's go ahead and just grab all these, and now we're done. After organizing the available computers, how many ended up in the workstations OU? Well, let's go ahead and see. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Bam. So it should be 8 machines in there. Oops, sorry. I can't count. 7. Uh, is it recommendable to create separate OUs for servers and workstations? Yes. All right, task number 6. We're going to talk about group policies. So far, we have organized users and computers in OUs just for the sake of it, but the main idea behind this is to be able to deploy different policies for each OU individually. That way we can push different configurations and security baselines to users depending on their department. Windows manages such policies through GPOs, also known as group policy objects. GPOs are simply a collection of settings that can be applied to OUs. GPOs can contain policies aimed at either users or computers, allowing you to set a baseline on specific machines and identities. To configure GPOs, you can use the Group Policy Management tool available from the Start menu. So let's go ahead. It's also down here, so I'm just going to click it down here. There we go. And let's see here. The first thing you will see when opening it is your complete OU hierarchy as defined before. To configure group policies, you first create a GPO under group policy objects and then link it to the OU where you want to or want the policies to apply. As an example, you can see there are some already existing GPOs in your machine. And that's right, we can see that there in the screenshot, right? You create them down here, as you can see. Let me try to move this over a little bit. All right, there we go. Now we can see them down here where it says group policy objects. All right, so I expanded that. And then up here, you can see GPOs are linked to OUs in various different places, right? So domain controllers has one, and let's see. These aren't going to have any because we just created it. Let's see here. We can see in the image above that 3 GPOs have been created. From those, the default domain policy and it's hard to read, but it says RDP policy are linked to the thm.local domain as a whole, and the default domain controllers policy is linked to the domain controllers OU only. Something important to have in mind is that any GPO will apply to the linked OU and any sub OUs under it. So remember that. For example, the sales OU will still be affected by the default domain policy. Let's examine the default domain policy to see what's inside a GPO. The first tab you'll see when selecting a GPO shows its scope, which is where the GPO is linked in the AD. For the current policy, we can see that it has only been linked to the thm.local domain. And you can see that down here, links. As you can see, you can also apply security filtering to GPOs so that they are only applied to specific users or computers under an OU. By default, they will apply to the authenticated users group, which includes all users and PCs. And you can see that down here where it says authenticated users under security filtering. The settings tab includes the actual contents of the GPO and lets us know what specific configuration applies. As stated before, each GPO has configurations that apply to computers only and configurations that apply to users only. In this case, default domain policy only contains computer configurations, right? So in the settings tab up here, you can see all kinds of stuff here. As you can see, as I stated, there's not going to be any user configuration stuff here, but you can see things here inside the computer area. All right. Okay. Feel free to explore the GPO and expand on the available items using the show links on the right side of each configuration. In this case, default domain policy indicates really basic configurations that should apply to most domains, including password and account lockout policy. So go ahead and play around in here and see what you can find out. Since this GPO applies to the whole domain, any change to it would affect all computers. Let's change the minimum password length policy to require users to have at least 10 characters in their passwords. To do this, right click on the GPO and click edit. All right, so let's go ahead and try that. The default domain policy, okay, and I'm going to click edit. And let's go ahead and follow along here. This will open a new window where we can navigate and edit all the available configurations. To change the minimum password length, go to computer configurations, policies, and then let's go to Windows settings, security settings, account policies, and then password policy. All right, and then you want to change the minimum password length to, I believe it said 10, yeah, 10 characters. So let's go and do that. Bam, apply, okay. As you can see, plenty of policies can be established in a GPO. While explaining every single one of them would be impossible in a single room, do feel free to explore a bit, as some of the policies are straightforward. If more information on any of the policies is needed, you can double click them and read the explain tab. So if you want to read more about this, click the explain tab and there you go. All right. GPO distribution. GPOs are distributed to the network via a network share called sysvol, which is stored in the DC. All users in a domain should typically have access to this share over the network to sync their GPOs periodically. The sysvol share points by default to the C Windows sysvol directory on each of the DCs in our network. Once a change has been made to any GPOs, it may take up to 2 hours for computers to catch up. If you want to force any particular computer to sync its GPOs immediately, you can always run the command on the desired computer, which is gp update /force. I've used this quite a lot in my career. Creating some GPOs for THM Inc. As part of our new job, we have been tasked with implementing some GPOs to allow us to 1. Block non-IT users from accessing the control panel, 2. Make workstations and servers lock their screen automatically after 5 minutes of user inactivity to avoid people leaving their sessions exposed. Let's focus on each of those and define what policies we should enable in each GPO and where they should be linked. Restricted access to control panel. We want to restrict access to control panel across all machines to only the users that are part of the IT department. Users of other departments shouldn't be able to change the system's preferences. Let's create a new GPO called restrict control panel access and open it for editing. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so let's go ahead and try that here. All right, so let's go ahead and get this ready to go. We want to go in and create a new policy in here. So let's go ahead and do that. Click OK. There we go. Now we're going to go in and edit it. And when you go to user configuration, right? Okay, so minimize that. Policies, administrative templates. Let's go ahead and drop that down. Control panel. And then what we need is this prohibit access to control panel and PC settings. Enable it like so. And then apply. Okay. Now we're done here. And it said that we're going to need to link these. So we can drag these to the cell, these departments here, right? As it says. So let's go ahead and drag it to marketing, sales, and management. Okay, so we're done here. Awesome. Auto lock screen GPO. For the first GPO regarding screen locking for workstations and servers, we could directly apply it over the workstation servers and among controllers, OUs we previously or created previously. While this solution would work, an alternative consists of simply applying the GPO to the root domain, as we want the GPO to affect all of the computers, since workstation servers and domain controllers OUs are all child OUs of the root domain. They will inherit its policies. Note, you might notice that if our GPO is applied to the root domain, it will also be inherited by other OUs like sales or marketing. Since those OUs contain users only, any computer configuration in our GPO will be ignored by them. Let's create a new GPO and call it auto lock screen. And let's go ahead and do that. All right. And let's go ahead, create it. So auto lock screen. There we go. Now we have to go and edit. All right. And we need to go to configure computer configuration this time. And we're going to go into policies, Windows settings, and we're going to go down to security settings and security options. Oh, sorry, local policies, and then security options. There we go. And interactive logon machine inactivity limit. So we're going to have to scroll down here a little bit. There we go. Click in here. It says we will set the inactivity limit to 5 minutes so that computers get locked automatically if any user leaves their session open. After closing the GPO editor, we will link the GPO to the root domain. So let's go ahead and do that. They have it in seconds here, so that's going to be 300 seconds. Sure. Right there, apply. Okay, now we should be done with that. Auto lock screen. Okay. Well, I've already done this, so that's already done. Once the GPOs have been applied to the correct OUs, we can log in as any users in either marketing, sales, or management for verification. For this task, let's connect via RDP using Mark's credentials. All right, so I'm just going to minimize this in case we have to jump back in and do something. So RDP again. This time I'm going to be Mark. Gosh, look at this password. All right. Okay. And so try opening the control panel. We should get a message indicating this operation is denied by the administrator. You can also wait 5 minutes to check if the screen is automatically locked. If you want, well, I'm not going to do that because we need to continue on for the sake of time. And let's go ahead and try to access the control panel. Let's just do it this way. Control panel, error message. Awesome. So it looks like it's working. And it says here that since we didn't apply the control panel GPO on IT, you should still be able to log into the machine as any of those users and access the control panel. If you created and linked the GPOs for some reason, you can use the GPO update force to force the GPO to be updated to that machine. So be sure to do that if you're having issues. All right, you can also log in as an IT person and then check it that way as well. I'm not going to do that. Question time. What is the name of the network share used to distribute GPOs to domain machines? Remember that was sysvol. Can a GPO be used to apply settings to users and computers? Oops. And task number 7 says authentication methods. When using Windows credentials, or sorry, when using Windows domains, all credentials are stored in the domain controllers. Whenever a user tries to authenticate to a service using domain credentials, the service will need to ask the domain controller to verify if they are correct. Two protocols can be used for network authentication in Windows domains. You get Kerberos, used by any recent version of Windows. This is the default protocol in any recent domain. You got Net NTLM, legacy authentication protocol, kept for compatibility purposes. While Net NTLM should be considered obsolete, most networks will have both protocols enabled. Let's take a deeper look at how each of these protocols work. First one up is Kerberos Authentication is the default authentication protocol for any recent version of Windows. Users who log into a service using Kerberos will be assigned tickets. Think of tickets as proof of a previous authentication. Users with tickets can present them to a service to demonstrate they have already authenticated into the network before and are therefore enabled to use it. When Kerberos is used for authentication, the following process happens. Number one, the user sends their username and a timestamp encrypted using a key derived from their password to the Key Distribution Center, KDC, a service usually installed on the domain controller in charge of creating Kerberos tickets on the network. The KDC will create and send back a ticket granting ticket TGT, which will all allow the user to request additional tickets to access specific services. The need for a ticket to get more tickets may sound a bit weird, but it allows users to request service tickets without passing their credentials every time they want to connect to a service. Along with the TGT, a session key is given to the user, which they need to generate the following request. Notice the TGT is encrypted using KRB TGT accounts password hash, and therefore the user can't access its contents. It is essential to know that the encrypted TGT includes a copy of the session key as part of the contents, and the KDC has no need to store the session key as it can recover a copy by decrypting the TGT if needed. And there's a image of what they're talking about here. Number two, when a user wants to connect to a service on the network, like a shared website or database, they will use their TGT to ask the KDC for a ticket granting service, TGS. TGS are tickets that allow connections only to the specific service they were granted or created for. To request a TGS, the user will send their username and a timestamp encrypted using the session key along with the TGT and service principal name (SPN), which indicates the service and server name we intend to access. As a result, the KDC will send us a TGS along with a service session key, which we will need to authenticate to the service we want to access. The TGS is encrypted using a key derived from the service owner hash. The service owner is the user or machine account that the service runs under. The TGS contains a copy of the service session key on its encrypted contents so that the service owner can access it by decrypting the TGS. Number three, the TGS can then be sent to the desired service to authenticate and establish a connection. The service will use its configured account's password hash to decrypt the TGS and validate the service session key. Net NTLM authentication. This works using a challenge response mechanism. The entire process is as follows. So you can see that here. All right. The client, number one, the client sends an authentication request to the server they want to access. Number two, the server generates a random number and sends it as a challenge to the client. Number three, the client combines their NTLM password hash with the challenge and other known data to generate a response to the challenge and sends it back to the server for verification. 4. The server forwards the challenge and the response to the domain controller for verification. 5. The domain controller uses the challenge to recalculate the response and compares it to the original response sent by the client. If they both match, the client is authenticated, otherwise access is denied. Then the authentication result is sent back to the server. 6. The server forwards the authentication result to the client. It says note that the user's password or hash is never transmitted through the network for security. Note, the described process applies when using a domain account. If a local account is used, the server can verify the response to the challenge itself without requiring interaction interaction with the domain controller the domain controller since it has the password hash stored locally on its SAM. All right, let's answer some questions here. Will a current version of Windows use NTLM as the preferred? No. Remember, that's an old protocol that uses Kerberos as the modern protocol. When referring to Kerberos, what type of ticket allows us to request further tickets known as a TGS? That was the when using net NTLM, is a user's password transmitted over the network at any point? And that would be a no. All right, task number 8, trees, forests, and trusts. So let's see what they have to say here. So far, we have discussed how to manage a single domain, the role of a domain controller, and how it joins computers, servers, and users. As companies grow, so do their networks. Having a single domain for a company is good enough to start, but in time, additional needs might push you into having more than one. Trees. Imagine, for example, that suddenly your company expands to a new country. The new country has different laws and regulations that require you to update your GPOs to comply. In addition, you now have IT people in both countries, and each IT team needs to manage the resources that correspond to each country without interfering with the other team. While you can create a complex OU structure and use delegations to achieve this, having a huge AD structure might be hard to manage and prone to human errors. Luckily for us, Active Directory supports integrating multiple domains so that you can partition your network into units that can be managed independently. If you have two domains that share the same namespace, thm.local, in our example, those domains can be joined into a tree. If our thm.local domain was split into two subdomains for UK and US branches, you could build a tree with a root domain of thm.local and two subdomains called uk.thm.local and us.thm.local, each with its AD computers and users. That's what it looks like here. Since the partition structure gives us better control over who can access what in the domain, the IT people from the UK will have their own DC that manages the UK resources only. For example, a UK user would not be able to manage US users. In that way, the domain administrators of each branch will have complete control over their respective DCs, but not over other branches' DCs. Policies can also be configured independently for each domain in the tree. A new security group needs to be introduced when talking about trees and forests. The enterprise admins group will grant a user administrative privileges over all of an enterprise's domains. Each domain would still have its domain admins with administrator privileges over their single domains, and the enterprise admins who can control everything else in the enterprise forest. The domains you manage can also be configured in different namespaces. Suppose your company continues growing and eventually acquires another company called MHT Inc. When both companies merge, you will probably have different domain trees for each company, each managed by its own department, or own IT department. The union of several trees with different namespaces into the same network is known as a forest. You can see that here. Trust relationships. Having multiple domains organized in trees and forests allows you to have a nice compartmentalized network in terms of management and resources, but at a certain point, a user at THM UK might need to access a shared file in one of MHT Asia servers. For this to happen, domains arranged in trees and forests are joined together by trust relationships. In simple terms, having a trust relationship between domains allows you to authorize a user from domain THM UK to access resources from domain MHT EU. The simplest trust relationship that can be established is a one-way trust relationship. In a one-way trust, if domain AAA trusts domain BBB, this means that a user on BBB can be authorized to access resources on AAA. That's what it looks like here. The direction of the one-way trust is contrary to that of the access direction. Two-way trust relationships can also be made to allow both domains to mutually authorize users from the other. By default, joining several domains under a tree or forest will form a two-way trust relationship. It is important to note that having a trust relationship between domains doesn't automatically grant access to all resources on other domains. Once a trust relationship is established, you have the chance to authorize users across different domains. But it's up to you what is actually authorized or not. What is a group of Windows domains that share the same namespace? And that was a tree. What should be configured between two domains for a user in domain A to access a resource in domain B? Oh, okay. A trust relationship. There we go. All right. Let's see here. Conclusion, task number 9. In this room, we have shown the basic components and concepts related to Active Directories and Windows domains. Keep in mind that this room should only serve as an introduction to the basic concepts, as there's quite a bit more to explore to implement a production-ready Active Directory environment. If you are interested in learning how to secure an Active Directory installation, be sure to check out the Active Directory hardening room to be released soon. If, on the other hand, you'd like to know how attackers can take advantage of common AD misconfigurations and other AD hacking techniques, the compromising Active Directory module is the way to go. And I'm sure we're going to get into that here soon. And that wraps up this video. Hopefully you all had a good time. Hopefully you learned something. And if you did, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you all later. Have a nice day. Thank you all for watching.